Hello, Kensington Knights. Today we're going to be comparing our own written response to the rubric to see how we can make the best grade possible. So you'll want to listen very carefully. Okay, so these are the steps that you're going to do when you're not with me and when you're not watching the video. So this is actually, if you watch the videos beforehand, it's a really good idea because you can watch the video and then have instruction on how to do your Reader's Workshop notebook so that it's right. So if you watch the video the day before and you get your notebook set up, that might be helpful so that when you watch the video the second time, you're really focused in on just the instruction. Okay, so this is your page setup, and this is where you're going to paste your rubric in. You can paste it on the outside edge of your notebook, just like it is here, but your paper is going to come over about halfway through where this 1 and 3 is. So what you're going to do is you're going to fold it in so that you can flip it out when you need to look at it. You're only going to glue the most of the paper down. You're not going to glue all of the paper down. You're going to leave about a 2, maybe 3-inch tail that's not going to be glued, and you'll just fold it over and crease it so that it stays in your notebook nice and neat and it won't flop out. Okay, so we're going to look at the rubric and we're going to look at what it takes to get an A. Okay, so our skill that we're looking at is inferring, and we make inferences about the setting, we make inferences about the character, we make inferences about the events. Okay, so in your ability to make an inference, you want to be able to draw logical inferences that can support your thinking with multiple details from the text. If you draw logical inferences and you only include a few details from the text, 1 or 2 pieces of information, then you would get a lower score for that. If you make a logical inference, but you can't really support it with accurate text, so for example, if you say that a particular character feels this way, but your evidence shows that he feels a different way, then that would be inaccurate support in your answer. You tried to support, and that's awesome, but we really want to make sure that our evidence is supporting what our conclusion is. Okay? And the last one is I have not yet learned how to draw logical inferences. Okay? Quoting accurately from the text. This is when you're talking about what's happened to a character, what a character said, or what happened at a particular event, that you're actually saying what has happened. This doesn't necessarily mean that you're saying word for word exactly what happened in the book. It's actually better if you can take the events that happened in the book, put them into your own words, but use your own words as evidence for what happened in the text. So it says, I can consistently quote accurately from the text when explaining the text or supporting my inferences. I can quote accurately from the text when explaining the text or supporting my inferences. Well, what's the difference? Well, the first column is you're consistently doing it, which means every piece of information supports. Okay? Every piece of information is accurately quoted. Okay? So not only does it support the idea, but it's accurate in the fact that it supports your idea. Okay? So, I can quote accurately from the text, explaining the text or supporting inferences. And I can use quotes from the text that are closely related but not accurate. Okay, so 2 and 3 are kind of close together, but 4 is very clear. There's no doubt this character felt this way. If you remember yesterday when we talked about Keck, it was clear that Keck was shocked by all that cold in his new environment. So that is clearly a 4 when it comes to this rubric. Okay, and then writing about reading. I consistently write about reading in a way that shows evidence of analytical thinking. So this is looking at everything that you do when you're writing about reading. And this is kind of like over time. So the grade that you get now is going to be like a little snapshot of what you've been able to do in the first couple of weeks of school. But the grade that you get 2 weeks from now on another response, you're looking at, that's the piece that you're looking for growth. You want to see that you're actually moving more towards what it is that you're the goal that you're trying to reach. Okay. So that's where we can tell that you're really making those strides. We want your response to be complex and complete. So that means if there's two pieces to an answer, then you need to have both pieces in your answer. And we don't want simple sentences. We want robust fifth grade sentences. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about what those sentences look like towards the end of this video. Spelling, errors, punctuation, capitalization. At this point, most people should be able to spell the word because. Most people should be able to capitalize the first letter in the sentence and end with correct punctuation. Okay. I know kindergarten, first, second, third, and fourth have talked to you about that. You know to do it. So fifth grade, we're expecting you to do it without having to be told. The rubric is the one that tells you this is important. Okay. Maybe your sentences are complete and sometimes complex, or maybe they're complex and your information is sometimes complete. That would get you a 3. If your sentences are basic and they're not really that complex throughout most of the response, then that would get you a 2. And if all of your sentences are simple, then that would get you a 1. Okay? And for spelling, the goal is no errors. No punctuation errors, no capitalization errors. So no spelling or mechanic errors. And then we have numerical values for the 3, the 2, and the 1. Okay, so you can have some time to look over that. So we're kind of going to go by this really quickly because we looked at this yesterday. We have the R, we have the A, we have the C, and that's really where I want to focus today. So we say, for example, where is all the world? Because I can't see anything because of the snow. Okay, so he was shocked because he couldn't see the earth. Because of where he lives and where he's from, he's always been able to see the earth, the grass. It's summertime all the time. It's either a wet season or a rainy season, but he's always touching the earth. And the snow was just like this barrier between him and the earth that had never existed in his life. You see what I just did? I just put all the information that was in the text in my own words to explain what the text says. That is a level 4 answer. Okay. What's on the screen here is a level 3 answer. Okay. And then there's 3 pieces of evidence. Where is all the world? There's nothing but snow. The cold claws at my skin, and the snow is an unkind blanket of white. Now, some passages, you might not be able to get that many pieces of evidence. This is an abundance of evidence in this passage, okay? But you should be able to get 3 pieces of evidence, especially if you're drawing an accurate conclusion, because there is a general rule that one piece of evidence is an anomaly. Okay. Second piece of evidence is a pattern. Third piece of evidence is a certainty. And fourth piece of evidence is an abundance of evidence for your proof. Okay. So how do we get those complex sentences? Well, we need to notice the linking words that help create those complex sentences by combining 2 thoughts together. So when we look at this race strategy without all the color, we notice that we have the words because and bold and underlined. And when you're drafting your answer in your Reader's Workshop notebook, go back and highlight it. Make yourself say, hey, do I have my linking verbs? I want you to use this rubric, not just when you're turning it in for a grade. I want you to use it every single time you're turning in a response, because you need to make sure that you have all those pieces so that consistency becomes a part of who you are. Okay? So the author's choice of words show that Keck is shocked by the environment of his new home. for example, okay, that is something that lets you know that the evidence is coming when you're a reader, okay? Now, let's look at this sentence. For example, Keck asks, where is all the world? Because he can't see anything but snow. If you said, for example, Keck says, where is all the world? The cold claws on my skin, and the snow is an unkind blanket of white. All of that is accurate, okay? However, it's not complex. You're just giving a list. It's like I went to the grocery store and I got apples, oranges, and bananas, okay? But if you explain that you went to the grocery store to get apples, oranges, and bananas because you're making a fruit salad, that's a more complex answer. So that kind of talks about the complexity of the sentence, but it also talks about the complexity of the evidence. Okay. And then the E, we still haven't gotten yet, so you won't be graded on that E part. It's important you understand that. We're only grading you on what we've taught you. Okay. Excuse me. So that, I believe, is the end of the slideshow, except for the you do part. So now it's time for you to look at that race strategy insert that you have and think about, how am I going to restate the sentence? Is my answer going to wind up being in the middle of the sentence because of the way the question is asked? Is some of my answer going to be at the beginning of the sentence? When they ask who does something, who 9 times out of 10 becomes the very first part of your answer. So if they're asking who, you know it goes at the beginning, okay? And we'll look a little bit more at things like that later on, okay? And what is my complete answer? So in other words, if there's 2 parts, have I answered both parts? And then you also want to be thinking, how am I going to support my answer? Does my evidence consistently support my answer? If the evidence consistently supports the answer, then man, you got a 4 in that area. If 2 of your pieces of evidence are strong pieces of evidence that it works and one of them isn't, well, that's inconsistent. So that would be a 3. Okay. And so that's how the rubric is being weighed against your answer. So even though I use that as a mentor example, on some of those pieces, the mentor example would only get a 3. Okay. So it's important that you understand that a 4 is very hard to get. So it would only get a 3 because, hey, it's at the beginning of the year. We don't expect everybody to be a 4 right out the gate, right? So use that rubric to grow as a writer about your reading. Readers out.